"Daddy, can we help her?" A little girl's innocent question changes everything when a mafia boss protects a woman from attackers in his club, the nurse who witnessed a murder, the crime lord who shields her, the child who brings them together. What begins as reluctant protection becomes something more when the woman moves into his fortified mansion as his daughter's caretaker. But behind closed doors, deadly secrets are revealed. The murdered man wasn't just anyone. The FBI is watching, and someone very close to the woman has been setting her up from the beginning, placing her directly in the crossfire between rival crime families. As bullets fly and loyalties shatter, the nurse must make an impossible choice: betray the dangerous man who's become her protector, or fire a bullet at the only blood family she has left. When a single question creates a deadly chain reaction, who will be left standing when the smoke clears? The fluorescent lights of Chicago Memorial's ER buzzed overhead as Alessia pressed gauze against the teenage boy's wound, her fingers steady despite her exhaustion. 16 hours into her double shift, and the faces of the injured were starting to blur together. "You're going to be okay," she assured the young patient, whose terrified eyes reminded her too much of Marco when they were kids. The bullet went clean through. The boy couldn't be more than 15, another casualty of Chicago's endless gang wars. His white t-shirt was soaked crimson, but his vitals were stable, small mercies. "Nurse Romano," Dr. Chen called out, "we need you in Bay 3, OD case." Alessia nodded, finishing the bandage with practiced efficiency. "Try to rest," she told the boy. "Someone will be back to check on you soon." Her shoes squeaked against the linoleum as she hurried to the next crisis. The ER was always like this lately: gunshots, overdoses, and the walking wounded of Chicago's underworld. She'd learned to stop asking questions about the injuries that came through their doors after dark. By the time her shift ended at 11 p.m., Alessia's feet were throbbing and her scrubs felt like they were made of lead. She grabbed her bag from her locker, checking her phone. 3 missed calls from Marco. Her stomach clenched. Marco only called this much when he was in trouble. Last time it had been a loan shark threatening to break his legs over a $5,000 debt. The time before that, he'd lost his rent money at the casino. She was running out of savings to bail him out. The night air hit her face as she pushed through the hospital's back exit. She'd missed her usual bus, and the next one wouldn't come for an hour. The shortcut behind Inferno would save her 20 minutes of walking. Music thumped from the nightclub as she approached, the bass vibrating through the concrete. The alley behind it was narrow, lined with dumpsters and delivery trucks. Sodium lights cast everything in a sickly orange glow. She was halfway down the alley when she heard the voices, low, controlled, dangerous. 2 men in tailored suits had another man on his knees, his hands zip-tied behind his back. "Please," the kneeling man begged. "I can explain everything." The taller suit pulled out a pistol with a long black silencer. "The FBI thanks you for your service." Alessia froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. The gun made a soft fut sound, like a champagne cork popping. The kneeling man slumped forward. Her elbow knocked against a metal trash can, sending it clattering across the pavement. Both suits whirled toward the sound. "Shit!" she whispered. "Get her!" Alessia ran, her sneakers pounding against the asphalt. The club's back entrance was ahead, a heavy metal door marked VIP access only. Behind her, she could hear the rapid footsteps of her pursuers. She slammed into the door with her shoulder, bursting into a hallway lined with red velvet wallpaper. The music was deafening now, the bass thrumming through her bones. She sprinted past surprised-looking security guards, through another set of doors, into the VIP section proper. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting rainbow light across leather booths filled with Chicago's elite. Men in expensive suits lounged with beautiful women, bottles of champagne gleaming on their tables. Alessia's chest heaved as she scanned the room, looking for anyone who might help. But these were the exact kind of people who wouldn't want to get involved, who would look the other way from murder in their back alley. The footsteps were getting closer. She pushed through the crowd, perfume and cologne and smoke clouding her senses. Her scrubs stood out garishly against the designer dresses and custom suits. She needed to find another exit, or a phone, or someone, anyone, who would believe her. But exhaustion was making her thoughts fuzzy, and panic was closing her throat. Behind her, she heard one of her pursuers speaking into a phone. "We've got a situation, civilian witness, female, medical worker by the looks of it. Need cleanup at Inferno." Alessia's legs trembled as she pressed through another crowd of partiers. The words "cleanup" echoed in her head. She'd watched enough crime shows to know what that meant. The VIP section seemed to stretch endlessly, all mirrors and leather and crystal, a maze designed to disorient. Every face she passed was a blur of indifference or annoyance at her desperate push through their exclusive space. She spotted another exit sign across the room, but one of the suits appeared in her path, his hand reaching inside his jacket. The other was closing in from behind, cutting off her escape route. Alessia looked wildly around the VIP section, her breath coming in sharp gasps. The music pounded in her ears, matching the frantic rhythm of her heart. She needed help, but everyone around her seemed to exist in another world, one of wealth and privilege that had no room for a terrified nurse in blood-stained scrubs. The suits were getting closer, moving with casual confidence through the crowd. They knew she had nowhere to go. To everyone else, they probably looked like club security dealing with a trespasser. Her legs shook from exhaustion and fear as she backed away from them, bumping into a table and earning glares from its occupants. The crystal glasses rattled, spilling expensive liquor. She had witnessed what she was never supposed to see. These men had executed someone with the casual efficiency of professionals, and now they were going to clean up their loose end. Her mind flashed to Marco. Would he ever know what happened to her? Would anyone even look for her body? The bass dropped in the music and strobe lights flashed across the VIP section, creating a surreal slow-motion effect. In those strobing moments, Alessia could see both suits clearly now, their faces impassive as they closed in. She backed against the bar, her hands gripping the polished wood behind her. Alessia crashed into what felt like a wall of muscle, her hands splaying against an expensive silk suit. She stumbled backward, looking up into steel-gray eyes that studied her with predatory intensity. The air left her lungs as recognition hit. Dante Ricci, Chicago's most notorious crime boss. His presence commanded the entire VIP section. At 6'3", he towered over her, his broad shoulders blocking out the strobing lights. Dark hair swept back from sharp features that might have been handsome, if not for the dangerous calculation in his gaze. "I'm so sorry, I didn't," Alessia started, but movement behind her made her voice crack with fear. A small hand tugged at Dante's sleeve. Alessia looked down to see a little girl, no more than 7, wearing a navy blue dress with a ribbon in her dark hair. She was practically a miniature version of the man before her, with the same striking features softened into innocent beauty. "Daddy," the girl whispered, pressing closer to her father's side. "The bad men are scaring her." Alessia's pulse jumped as the 2 suits entered the VIP section, their eyes scanning the crowd with lethal purpose. When they spotted her, they moved forward with fluid grace, parting the sea of socialites effortlessly. Something shifted in Dante's expression as he looked from his daughter to Alessia's terrified face. His hand settled on the girl's shoulder protectively. "Sophia, stay close to me." With subtle power, he maneuvered Alessia behind him, positioning himself between her and the approaching men. The movement was smooth, almost casual, but the message was clear. She was under his protection. The suits stopped short, recognition and fear flickering across their previously impassive faces. The taller one spoke first, his voice carefully neutral. "Mr. Ricci, this doesn't concern you. We're simply handling a security issue." "In my club." Dante's voice was soft, but it carried an edge that made Alessia shiver. "I wasn't aware the Donati family had authority here." The shorter suit shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Donati would consider it a personal favor if you'd step aside, and I would consider it a personal insult if you continued threatening this woman in front of my daughter." Dante's tone remained conversational, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "You can tell Vincent that anything happening in my territory happens with my permission, and right now you don't have it." The men exchanged glances, clearly weighing their options. The taller one took a half step forward, then stopped as Dante's hand drifted toward his jacket. "Of course, Mr. Ricci," the shorter one said smoothly. "Our apologies for the disruption." He turned to leave but paused beside Alessia. His whisper was meant for her alone. "You're involved in something far bigger than you understand, Bella. Watch your back." Sophia pressed closer to her father as the men retreated, her small hand clutching his pant leg. Once they were gone, Dante turned to study Alessia more carefully. "You're shaking." "I'm fine," Alessia lied, wrapping her arms around herself. Her scrubs were stained with dried blood from her shift, and she was suddenly very aware of how out of place she looked in this world of wealth and power. "No, you're not." Dante guided her to a private booth, his hand hovering near the small of her back without quite touching her. "Sophia, princess, wait here with Marco while I talk to our guest." A mountain of a man materialized from the shadows, nodding respectfully to Dante before taking up position beside Sophia. The girl climbed onto the leather seat, swinging her feet as she watched Alessia with curious eyes. "Tell me what you saw," Dante commanded once they were seated. His presence filled the booth, making it impossible to focus on anything else. Alessia's hands twisted in her lap. They executed someone in the alley. He was zip-tied, on his knees. They said something about the FBI before they shot him. Dante's expression hardened. Did you recognize the victim? No, I was just trying to catch my bus home after my shift and... Her voice cracked again. Oh God, they're going to kill me, aren't they? Not while you're under my protection. Dante signaled to a waitress, who appeared instantly with water. Drink. You're in shock. Alessia took a shaky sip, the crystal glass cool against her palm. Why are you helping me? Because my daughter asked me to. His smile was sharp. And because anything that happens in my territory is my business. The Donatus overstepped tonight. He studied her for another moment before standing. I'm driving you home. No arguments. That's not necessary. It wasn't a request. He held out his hand to help her up, his grip firm but not painful when she reluctantly took it. Sophia, time to go home, princess. The girl bounded over, slipping her small hand into her father's free one. Can she come with us, Daddy? She looks scared. I'm taking her home first, Dante assured his daughter, to make sure she's safe. They moved through the club like royalty, people stepping aside automatically. Outside, a sleek black SUV waited at the curb, 2 more suits, these ones clearly Dante's men, holding the doors open. The drive to Alessia's apartment was silent except for Sophia's quiet humming from the back seat. Dante's presence beside her in the car was overwhelming, his cologne a subtle mix of sandalwood and something darker. When they pulled up to her building, he insisted on walking her to her door despite her protests. Alessia's heart stopped when she saw the note pinned there, the paper stark white against the worn wood. Dante plucked it off before she could reach for it, his jaw tightening as he read the message. What does it say? She whispered, though part of her didn't want to know. He turned the paper so she could see the elegant script. Witnesses don't live long in Chicago. Sunlight stabbed through Alessia's thin curtains, her few hours of fitful sleep shattered by thunderous pounding on her door. Her heart leaped into her throat as she stumbled from bed, still wearing yesterday's scrubs. Ms. Romano! Her building manager's voice cracked with anxiety. Please! You need to open up! Alessia peered through the peephole to confirm it was really Mr. Chen before cracking the door, chain still latched. What's wrong? The elderly man wrung his hands, glancing nervously over his shoulder. Men were here, asking questions, describing you, your height, your hair, even the butterfly tattoo on your wrist. I told them nothing, but... He lowered his voice. They didn't look like men who take no for an answer. Ice flooded her veins. When? Early this morning. They left, but... He shook his head. Be careful, Miss Romano. These weren't police. After he hurried away, Alessia slammed the door and grabbed her phone with trembling fingers. She called the hospital first, her voice wavering as she claimed food poisoning. Then she tried Marco's number, straight to voicemail, like the 5 times she'd tried last night. Marco, please, she whispered into the phone. I'm in trouble. Real trouble. Call me back. She yanked her duffel bag from under the bed and started shoving clothes inside. Sarah from pediatrics had a spare room. She could stay there until she figured something out. As she stuffed a handful of underwear into the bag, 3 sharp knocks echoed through her apartment. Alessia froze. These weren't the frantic knocks from before. These were measured, deliberate, commanding. Miss Romano! The deep voice was unmistakable. Open the door. She crept to the peephole. Dante Ricci stood in her dingy hallway like a king surveying a slum, flanked by 2 suited men who made Mr. Chen look child-sized. I know you're there, he said calmly. We need to talk. Alessia's hand hovered over the chain. How did you find my apartment? I make it my business to know everything about people who enter my world. Open the door. She did. Because what choice did she really have? Dante filled her doorway, somehow looking even more imposing in daylight. His gray suit probably cost more than her yearly rent. May I come in? The polite question wasn't really a question. Alessia stepped back, acutely aware of her bare feet and rumpled clothes. Dante's eyes swept the tiny studio apartment, taking in the second-hand furniture and water-stained ceiling. You work hard, he observed, touching nothing. Double shifts at Chicago Memorial's ER, top of your class in nursing school despite working 2 jobs to put yourself through it. Orphaned at 12, raised by your older brother Marco. His gaze sharpened. The same Marco who owes the Donati family nearly $200,000 in gambling debts. Her stomach dropped. How do you— I told you, I make it my business to know. He turned to face her fully. The man you saw murdered last night was connected to both our families. His death makes you very dangerous to the Donatis and very valuable to me. I don't want any part of this. What you want is irrelevant, but I'm prepared to offer you a mutually beneficial arrangement. He adjusted his cufflinks. My daughter hasn't stopped asking about the pretty lady since last night. She needs a live-in nanny. Someone with medical training would be ideal. Accept the position, and I'll clear Marco's debts while ensuring your safety. Anger flared through Alessia's fear. You want to own me. I want to protect my interests. I won't work for a criminal. Dante's phone buzzed. He answered with a brief, yes, then turned the screen toward her without a word. The video feed showed the back of her building. Flames licked up the walls as dark smoke billowed into the morning sky. Even through the phone's speaker, she could hear sirens approaching. The Donatis are done playing games, Dante said quietly. You have no home, no safety, and a target on your back. You have no choice but to accept my protection, on my terms. Alessia stared at the flames consuming her home of 5 years. All her photos, her mother's jewelry, her nursing school textbooks, everything she'd worked so hard for, going up in smoke. I'll give you 10 minutes to pack what you can, Dante said. My men will help carry your bags. She moved on autopilot, shoving clothes and essentials into any bag she could find. Her hands shook as she retrieved her mother's ring from its hiding place in a hollow book. When she reached for her scrubs, Dante stopped her. You won't need those. Everything will be provided. Outside, 3 black SUVs idled at the curb. Firefighters rushed past, hoses already deployed. Dante's men efficiently loaded her bags while neighbors gathered to watch their building burn. Your old life ended the moment you witnessed that murder, Dante said, opening the car door. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be. Alessia looked back at the smoke rising against the morning sky, then at the luxury vehicle, waiting to whisk her away to a gilded cage. With no real choice left, she climbed inside. The iron gates of the Ricci estate swung open silently, revealing a sprawling limestone mansion that looked more like a fortress than a home. Alessia pressed her face against the SUV's tinted window, counting at least 6 security guards patrolling the immaculate grounds. Welcome home! A blur of dark hair and pink dress launched itself at Alessia the moment she stepped out of the car. Sophia beamed up at her, small hands clasping Alessia's. I told Daddy you had to stay with us. Mrs. Bertelli made up your room and everything. Sophia. Dante's quiet voice carried immediate authority. Let Miss Romano get settled first. A severe-looking woman in her 60s appeared, her silver hair pulled into a tight bun. I am Mrs. Bertelli. This way, please. Her tone suggested she'd rather be directing Alessia to a dungeon than guest quarters. They walked through marble halls adorned with priceless artwork, past rooms that could fit her entire apartment. The staff wing, while less ornate, was still luxurious. Alessia's room featured a queen-size bed, sitting area, and private bath finished in cream and gold. Your duties begin tomorrow at 7 a.m. sharp, Mrs. Bertelli stated. Sophia's schedule is posted by the desk. Mr. Ricci will review security protocols after dinner. Dante was waiting in his study, a mahogany-paneled room that screamed power. Sophia's safety is paramount, he began, without preamble. You'll have an armed escort whenever you leave the grounds. All communication devices are monitored. The windows and doors have sensors. If you attempt to leave without authorization, you'll be stopped. You mean I'm a prisoner? You're protected. His gray eyes hardened. Don't make me regret this arrangement. After a formal dinner where Sophia chattered enough for everyone, Alessia found herself restless. She wandered the quiet halls, admiring the subtle security features hidden behind luxury. Voices drifted from the family room. And then Emma brought her new puppy for show and tell, Sophia was saying. Can we get a puppy, Daddy? Alessia peered around the doorframe. The sight stopped her breath. Dante Ricci, Chicago's most feared crime boss, sat cross-legged on the floor while his daughter leaned against his knee. His capable hands, the same ones that likely ordered countless deaths, gently wove Sophia's dark hair into an intricate braid. We'll discuss pets another time, Tesoro, he murmured, focused on his task. That's what Mommy used to say. Sophia's voice grew quiet. She always did my hair before bed. Dante's fingers stilled. Raw grief flashed across his face before he schooled his features. Your mother loved doing your hair, he said softly, resuming the braid. Now it's our special time together. Alessia retreated silently, her heart aching for both father and daughter. In her room, she tried Marco's number again. Voicemail. Marco, it's me. I'm safe, but things are complicated. I'm staying with Dante Ricci. The Donatis burned down my building. Please call me back. I'm worried. Returning from the bathroom later, she nearly collided with Dante in the dim hallway. You were watching us earlier. It wasn't a question. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. What you see in this house stays in this house. His voice was quiet but carried unmistakable warning. My daughter's privacy and safety are everything. The next morning, Sophia attached herself to Alessia like a chatty shadow. While coloring together, the little girl confided, Mommy got really sick 2 years ago. The doctors couldn't make her better. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Daddy tries to be happy for me, but I can tell he's still sad. Sophia selected a purple crayon. He doesn't laugh like he used to. That night, after tucking Sophia in, Alessia padded to the kitchen for water. Dante's office door was ajar, his voice drifting out. The Fed's body won't be found, he was saying. Make sure his handler gets the message. No one investigates my territory. The glass nearly slipped from Alessia's numb fingers. The murdered man had been FBI. She'd witnessed the execution of a federal agent. She was halfway back to her room when heavy knocking echoed through the quiet house. 2 men in suits flashed FBI badges when security opened the door. We need to speak with Alessia Romano, one announced. Now! Alessia's heart pounded as footsteps approached her door. She looked frantically around the luxurious room that had become both sanctuary and prison, wondering how everything had spiraled so far out of control in just 24 hours. The knock came, sharp and demanding, while somewhere in the house a child slept peacefully, unaware of the darkness closing in. The grandfather clock in Dante's study chimed midnight as Alessia sat rigidly between 2 FBI agents. Dark wood paneling and leather-bound books surrounded them, the room's luxury a stark contrast to her rising panic. I'm Agent Rivera, the younger one said, his intense gaze unsettling. This is Agent Collins. We've been building a RICO case against the Ricci and Donati families for months. Collins, older and more weathered, placed a file on the mahogany desk. The man you saw murdered was one of ours. Deep undercover. Alessia's stomach dropped. I didn't see anything clearly. We both know that's not true. Rivera leaned forward. But what you might not know is this. He spread photos across the desk like playing cards. Her breath caught. Marco, her brother, meeting with men in expensive suits, exchanging envelopes, shaking hands with someone she recognized from news coverage, Anthony Donati himself. Your brother's been playing both sides, Collins explained gently. Running errands for the Donatis while feeding us information, now he's gone dark. That's impossible. But even as she said it, pieces clicked into place. Marco's unexplained cash. His nervous energy. The late-night phone calls. Rivera pulled out a small recording device. We need someone inside the Ricci organization, someone with access. You want me to wear a wire? Alessia's voice cracked. Against Dante? Against a murderer, Rivera corrected. Think about Sophia. She deserves better than growing up in this world. The study door swung open. Dante filled the doorframe, his expression thunderous. A phone in his hand broadcast voices she recognized as his legal team. Unless you have a warrant, a crisp female voice announced through the speaker. My client demands you leave his property immediately. We're just having a friendly chat, Rivera said smoothly. Get out! Dante's quiet tone carried more menace than a shout. Collins stood first, touching Rivera's shoulder. We'll be in touch, Ms. Romano. Remember what we discussed about your brother. After they left, silence stretched between Alessia and Dante. He poured 2 fingers of whiskey, offering her a glass she declined. Tell me everything, he ordered. She did, watching his expression darken at mentions of Marco and the wire. When she finished, he drained his glass. You're moving to the family wing tonight, next to Sophia, across from me. What? Why? Because the FBI will be watching this house. I need to control what they see. He studied her. And your brother's Donati connection makes you a security risk I need to monitor closely. An hour later, Alessia stood in her new room, twice the size of the previous one, decorated in soft blues and silvers. Sophia's door was visible from her own, Dante's imposing entrance directly opposite. Sleep proved impossible. She tossed until dawn painted the sky pink through designer curtains. Morning brought surreal moments of domestic intimacy. She nearly collided with Dante outside the shared bathroom, his dress shirt only half buttoned. In the kitchen, Sophia insisted they all eat breakfast together, chattering about how nice it was, having Alessia upstairs with the family. Mrs. Bertelli served Belgian waffles with fresh berries, her disapproval of the new arrangement evident in every tight-lipped movement. Alessia caught Dante hiding a smile behind his coffee cup at his housekeeper's obvious dismay. The day passed in a blur of Sophia's tutoring sessions and Dante's business calls. That evening, screams pierced the hallway. Alessia reached Sophia's room the same moment as Dante. The little girl thrashed in her sheets, crying out for her father. "Daddy, don't leave like Mommy!" Dante gathered her close. "I'm here, Tesoro, just a bad dream." "Can we watch a movie?" Sophia hiccuped. "All of us?" Which was how Alicia found herself on the family room's plush sectional, watching The Little Mermaid, while Sophia snuggled between them. Dante knew every word, his deep voice joining Sophia's for Under the Sea. Alessia watched him soothe his daughter's fears with infinite patience, strong hands gentle as they stroked Sophia's hair. This tender father bore little resemblance to the man who'd ordered federal agents from his home hours earlier. Sophia's breathing eventually deepened into sleep. Dante lifted her effortlessly, cradling her against his chest. Alessia followed them upstairs, holding doors and pulling back covers. As Dante tucked Sophia in, his eyes met Alessia's over their heads. Something flickered in his gaze, an assessment deeper than his usual suspicious scrutiny. Heat bloomed under her skin. Later, lying in her new bed, Alessia stared at the ceiling. The FBI's photos of Marco haunted her. Had her brother betrayed her trust? Was he working with the family that wanted her dead? Down the hall, a door opened and closed. Footsteps passed. Dante's distinctive stride. She thought of his arms around Sophia, his quiet strength, the way he'd positioned himself between her and the Donati killers that first night. Dangerous, protective, gentle with his daughter, yet lethal to his enemies. Alessia pressed her face into the pillow, trying to quiet her racing thoughts. She was trapped between the FBI's demands, her brother's secrets, and her growing awareness of Dante Ricci as more than just Chicago's most feared crime boss. Sleep remained elusive as questions chased through her mind. How had Marco gotten involved with the Donatis? What had happened to the FBI's undercover agent? And why did she feel drawn to the very man she should fear most? The clock struck 3, its chimes echoing through the silent halls of a house filled with secrets, power, and unexpected moments of grace. Morning sunlight streamed through the SUV's bulletproof windows as Alessia watched Sophia skip up the private school's manicured walkway. 2 groundskeepers tracked the child's movement, their practice scanning betraying their true purpose. A teacher's aide met Sophia at the door, his suit jacket carefully tailored to conceal a shoulder holster. "They're all highly trained," the driver explained, catching Alesia's observation in the rearview mirror. "Mr. Ricci takes no chances with Miss Sophia's safety." Back at the mansion, Alessia found herself alone for the first time since moving to the family wing. Mrs. Bertelli had left to supervise grocery delivery, and Dante was handling business in the city. The weight of yesterday's FBI visit and their accusations about Marco pressed heavily on her mind. Her footsteps echoed through empty halls as she made her way to Dante's office. The heavy oak door opened silently. Guilt twisted in her stomach as she slipped behind his desk, but she needed answers. The computer was locked, but manila folders filled a drawer labeled Current Operations. She rifled through them until a familiar name caught her eye. Romano. Marco. Her hands trembled as she opened the file. Bank statements showed regular deposits of $25,000 into an offshore account, payments that began exactly 3 months ago. The source? A shell company Alessia recognized from the FBI's photos as a Donati front. "Finding what you're looking for." Alessia jumped, the papers scattering. Dante stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. I can explain." "No need." He crossed to a wall safe, entering a code. "I've been conducting my own investigation into your brother." He withdrew a thick folder, spreading surveillance photos across his desk. Marco with Agent Rivera in a parking garage. Marco leaving the Donati social club. Marco accepting an envelope from a man Alessia recognized as one of the killers from the alley. "Your brother's been working both sides," Dante said quietly, "feeding information to the FBI while taking Donati money." "There has to be an explanation," her voice cracked. "Marco wouldn't, he's not—" "Those gambling debts you've been killing yourself to pay?" Dante tapped the bank statements. "They disappeared the same week these payments started." "No." But memories surfaced. Marco's new clothes, his unexplained absences, his insistence she take that shortcut home the night of the murder. He wouldn't use me like that. The timing is suspicious. You witness a murder that forces you to seek protection, giving the FBI potential access to my household through you. The room spun. Alessia gripped the desk edge. I've been working 60-hour weeks, draining my savings, skipping meals to help him, while he was... Her knees buckled. Strong hands caught her before she hit the floor. Dante lowered her into his leather chair, keeping steady pressure on her shoulders. Breathe, he ordered softly. She hadn't realized she was hyperventilating. His presence anchored her, solid, stable. When had the feared crime boss become a source of comfort rather than terror? I'm sorry, she whispered. For snooping, for bringing this mess to your door, for... Stop. His thumb traced circles on her shoulder, probably unconsciously. You're not responsible for your brother's choices. A sob caught in her throat. Dante awkwardly patted her back, clearly unpracticed at offering comfort to anyone but Sophia. The gesture's very awkwardness made it more touching. They stayed like that, his hand on her shoulder, until Mrs. Bertelli's voice echoed down the hall, announcing Sophia's return from school. Alessia straightened, wiping her eyes. Sophia can't see me like this. Dante handed her his handkerchief. Use my private bathroom. Take a moment. She splashed cold water on her face, practicing her smile in the mirror until it looked convincing. By the time Sophia burst in with stories about her day, Alessia had herself under control. They spent the evening helping Sophia with her science project, building a solar system model. Alessia kept her voice steady, her hands busy, focusing on the child's excitement rather than her own pain. But alone in her room that night, the facade crumbled. All those years of sacrifice, of putting Marco first, of believing in the unshakable bond between siblings who'd lost everything else, had it, meant nothing to him? Tears soaked her pillow as memories assaulted her. Marco holding her after their parents' funeral, promising to always protect her. Marco cheering at her nursing school graduation, Marco swearing each time would be the last gambling debt she'd have to help him pay. Had every moment been manipulation? Every promise a calculated move in some larger game? In the hallway, floorboards creaked under familiar footsteps. Dante paused outside her door. She held her breath, watching the shadow of his feet through the gap beneath. His hand raised to knock. She could see the faint movement of his shadow. For a long moment, he stood frozen in indecision. Then his arm lowered, and he moved away, his steps fading into silence. Alessia pressed her face deeper into the tear-dampened pillow, missing the days when her world was exhausting but simple, when she knew who to trust, who to love, who to fear. Now nothing made sense. Her brother was a traitor, her captor showed unexpected kindness, and somewhere in the city, forces were moving, using her as a pawn in a game she was only beginning to understand. Fresh tears fell as she curled around her pain, mourning the brother she'd thought she knew, the family bonds she'd believed unbreakable. Down the hall, Dante sat in his office, staring at her brother's file, his own thoughts similarly troubled by the woman whose quiet sobs echoed in his mind. 2 weeks had transformed life in the Ricci mansion from captivity to something uncomfortably close to belonging. Alessia watched Sophia twirl in her pink tulle gown, the child's excitement for the charity gala infectious. Do I look like a real princess? Sophia asked, attempting another spin that nearly toppled her. The prettiest princess in Chicago, Alessia studied her with practiced hands. Now hold still while I fix your tiara. These quiet moments had become routine, morning preparations for school, afternoon homework, family dinners where Dante's calculating gaze had softened into something less predatory. Even Mrs. Bertelli's initial frostiness had thawed as Alessia proved herself with Sophia. A knock interrupted their princess preparations. Mrs. Bertelli entered carrying a garment bag. From Mr. Ricci, for tonight. Alessia unzipped it to reveal a midnight blue evening gown that probably cost more than 3 months of her nursing salary. The silk whispered against her fingers. Now you can be a princess too, Sophia clapped. Hours later, Alessia stood before her mirror, barely recognizing herself. The gown fit perfectly, suggesting Dante had been paying more attention than she'd realized. Her dark hair fell in elegant waves, makeup subtle but enhancing. You clean up well, Dante's voice came from her doorway. He looked devastating in his tuxedo, power contained in elegant tailoring. Thank you for the dress, she smoothed non-existent wrinkles. Though I'm not sure why Sophia's nanny needs evening wear. You're her companion tonight, not staff. His eyes tracked over her slowly. Besides, you'll blend better with the guests this way. The great room had been transformed for the gala. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over elegant table settings while Chicago's wealthiest citizens mingled. Security personnel blended seamlessly with the crowd, their weapons concealed under designer suits. Sophia charmed everyone, the perfect little hostess in her princess dress. Alessia stayed close, watching her shine while monitoring the room with newly developed instincts. Working in the ER had taught her to spot trouble before it erupted, which was why the catering staff caught her attention. 3 servers she didn't recognize from the detailed briefing that morning. Their movements were too precise, their attention too focused on Sophia rather than their duties. She caught Dante's eye across the room and touched her left earring, their prearranged signal for potential threats. He gave an imperceptible nod, already moving through the crowd with casual purpose. The lights went out, screams erupted as darkness plunged the room into chaos. Alessia grabbed Sophia, pulling her close as bodies pushed past them in panic. "Stay with me, sweetheart," she whispered, feeling the child trembling. "I've got you!" Hands grabbed at them in the dark. Alessia spun away, using skills learned dodging handsy patients in the ER. Someone seized her arm. She drove her elbow back hard, hearing a satisfying grunt of pain. "Give us the girl," a voice hissed. "Over my dead body," Alessia snarled, backing them toward where she remembered a service door. Strong arms wrapped around her from behind. She kicked backward, connecting with a shin, but the man slammed her against the wall. Pain exploded in her side, sharp, burning, familiar from treating stab wounds in the ER. She didn't let go of Sophia. The lights blazed back on, revealing Dante's security team, efficiently subduing black-clad figures throughout the room. 2 men broke for the garden doors, one's knife dripping red. Dante moved with lethal grace, his tuxedo jacket discarded, twin pistols appearing in his hands. He followed them outside. 3 shots cracked through the night. "Alessia?" Sophia's voice wavered. "You're bleeding." She looked down at the spreading crimson stain on blue silk. "Just a scratch, princess. Are you hurt?" Dante returned, his face thunderous until he saw the blood. Fear replaced rage as he crossed the room in long strides. "The doctor's already on his way." He barked to his men, gathering Alessia carefully in his arms. "Sophia, stay with Mrs. Bertelli." "But Alessia, we'll be fine, Tesoro, I promise." The world was getting fuzzy around the edges. Alessia pressed her face against Dante's chest, inhaling his cologne mixed with cordite. "You killed them," she murmured. "They hurt you." His arms tightened. "No one hurts what's mine." She should protest being called his possession. Instead, she focused on the frantic beat of his heart. Against her cheek, so different from his controlled exterior. "Sophia's safe," she managed. "That's what matters." "You matter too, damn it. Stay awake, Kara. The doctor's waiting in my study." But darkness was creeping in, despite his commanding tone. The last thing she registered was the tremor in his voice as he called her name. Not the cold calculation of a crime boss, but the fear of a man watching someone he cared for bleed in his arms. The world faded to black, his heartbeat her anchor to consciousness as he carried her through his silent fortress, leaving a trail of blood-spotted silk in their wake. Antiseptic and luxury warred in Alessia's senses as consciousness returned. Silk sheets whispered against her skin, but medical equipment hummed nearby. Her eyelids felt heavy, resistant to opening. "There you are," Mrs. Bertelli's familiar voice broke through the fog. "We've been waiting for you to properly wake up." Alessia blinked, taking in unfamiliar surroundings. The room was larger than her previous quarters, decorated in muted golds and creams. Sunlight streamed through tall windows overlooking the garden. Medical equipment had been arranged discreetly around a massive 4-poster bed. "Where?" Her throat felt raw. "You're in the family wing now," Mrs. Bertelli explained, helping her sip water through a straw. "Connected to Mr. Ricci's suite. The doctor insisted on keeping you close for monitoring after the surgery." Surgery. Memories flooded back, the gala protecting Sophia, searing pain in her side. "How long?" 3 days. The knife missed anything vital, but you lost a lot of blood." The housekeeper's stern expression softened. "Sophia's been beside herself. She's convinced herself you'll disappear like her mother did." Guilt twisted in Alessia's chest. "Poor baby. Is she okay?" "Physically unharmed, thanks to you." Mrs. Bertelli adjusted Alessia's pillows with practiced efficiency. "Though she's given her tutors hell, refusing to focus until she could see you properly awake." Footsteps in the doorway drew their attention. Dante stood there, his usual impeccable appearance slightly disheveled. His tie was loose, shirt sleeves rolled up, dark circles under his eyes. Something flickered across his face, seeing her conscious, relief cracking through his controlled facade before he schooled his features. Mrs. Bertelli quietly excused herself, leaving them alone. "The doctor says you'll make a full recovery," he said, moving to stand by her bed. "Though you'll have a scar. Small price for keeping Sophia safe." Alessia shifted, wincing. "What happened?" His jaw tightened. "The Donatis. They infiltrated the catering staff, planning to grab Sophia in the chaos while their hit squad took me out." His hands clenched. "You spoiled their plan by recognizing something was wrong, by protecting her. Anyone would have—" "No." His voice was sharp. "Most would have run. You put yourself between armed men and my daughter without." Hesitation. Alessia remembered the terror in Sophia's voice, the desperation to keep her safe. "She's a child. She deserves protection." Dante's expression softened fractionally. He opened his mouth to respond, but was interrupted by a small voice from the doorway. "Alessia?" Sophia stood there in her school uniform, eyes wide and wet. "Hey, princess." Alessia smiled, opening her arms carefully. "Come here." Sophia flew across the room, climbing onto the bed with unusual gentleness. She curled against Alessia's uninjured side, small fingers clutching her hospital gown. "I was so scared," she whispered. "Like when Mommy got sick and didn't get better." "I'm okay, sweetheart." Alessia stroked her dark hair. "Just needed some extra sleep to heal." Sophia refused to leave after that, even when Mrs. Bertelli brought dinner. She fell asleep mid-sentence while telling Alessia about her week, tear tracks still visible on her cheeks. Later that night, Alessia woke to find Dante sitting beside her bed, illuminated by moonlight. He looked devastated, walls completely down. "I thought—" His voice was rough. "When I saw you bleeding." He ran a hand over his face. In the dim light, she could see traces of dried blood under his nails, remnants of the men who'd hurt her. "Elena was sick for 2 years," he said quietly. "I watched cancer eat away at her, helpless to stop it. When she died, I shut down everything except business and Sophia. It was easier than feeling." Alessia remained silent, sensing he needed to speak. "Sophia withdrew after losing her mother. She was polite but distant with everyone. Until you. You made her laugh again, made her feel safe." His eyes met hers. "When you were stabbed, something in me broke. The thought of losing you." He trailed off, vulnerability raw in his expression. "This isn't just about protection anymore. It hasn't been for weeks." Alessia's heart thundered. She reached for his hand, feeling calluses from trigger pulls against her palm. Instead of recoiling from what those hands had done, she threaded their fingers together. The tension that had been building for weeks crystallized in that touch. Dante leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away. She lifted her face to meet him instead. The kiss was desperate, consuming, everything they'd been holding back. His hands cupped her face like she was precious, while his mouth claimed hers with barely restrained need. She gripped his shirt, pulling him closer despite her injury's protest. A small sound from the doorway broke them apart. Sophia stood there in her nightgown, tears on her cheeks. "Another nightmare, Tesoro." Dante's voice was gentle. She nodded, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Can I stay with Alessia, please?" They rearranged carefully until Sophia lay between them, her head on Alessia's shoulder. Dante stretched out on top of the covers, one arm cushioning his daughter, while his other hand found Alessia's above Sophia's sleeping form. In the quiet, darkness, their eyes met over the child they both loved. No words were needed. Everything had changed, and there was no going back. Through the mansion's tall windows, morning sunlight painted golden stripes across Alessia's bedroom floor. Her side still ached, but the worst of the pain had subsided. Dr. Romano had cleared her for light duties, which meant she could finally resume her role, caring for Sophia, beyond simply reading stories from her sickbed. The past week had transformed everything between her and Dante. What started as that first desperate kiss had evolved into something neither of them named, but both craved. She'd catch him watching her across rooms with an intensity that made her breath catch. His hands would find excuses to touch her, adjusting her hair, steadying her elbow, brushing imaginary lint from her shoulder. In quiet moments, he'd pull her into darkened corners for kisses that left her dizzy. Yet they never discussed what they were becoming to each other. The words hung unspoken between stolen moments of passion and tender glances. "Alessia!" Sophia's excited voice echoed down the hallway. "We're going to be late for the science fair." Alessia smoothed her conservative dress, appropriate for a school event. When she stepped into the foyer, she found not only Sophia, but Dante as well, dressed impeccably in a charcoal suit. "You're coming?" she asked, surprised. His business typically kept him from such events. "My daughter's presenting her first science project," his lips quirked. "I wouldn't miss it." At the school, their entrance caused a ripple of whispers. The feared crime boss, his daughter, and the beautiful woman who'd appeared in their lives. They painted quite a picture. Dante's hand settled possessively at the small of her back as they walked through the crowded gymnasium. Sophia bounced between them, proudly showing off her volcanic reaction project. When she successfully demonstrated the chemical reaction, Dante's genuine smile of pride matched Alessia's own. Other parents watched them, clearly noting how naturally they functioned as a unit. That night, after tucking an exhausted but happy Sophia into bed, Alessia returned to her room to find Dante waiting. The moment their eyes met, the tension that had been building all day snapped. His kiss was hungry, demanding, backing her against the wall as his hands roamed her body. She gasped as his mouth traced fire down her neck. "I've wanted you all day," he growled against her skin. "Watching you with Sophia, seeing how perfect you are with her." They stumbled toward the bed, clothes falling away. His typical iron control crumbled as she ran her nails down his back. When he finally joined their bodies, the last barriers between them shattered. Afterward, lying in his arms, Alessia traced the scars on his chest, evidence of the violence in his world. This man who could order deaths without hesitation had just worshipped her body with infinite tenderness. The contrast should have frightened her. Instead, she was falling deeper into whatever this was becoming. Morning found them in the kitchen, Dante pressing her against the counter for a lingering kiss while coffee brewed. Neither heard Sophia's approach until her delighted squeal made them jump apart. "Are you going to be my new mommy?" Sophia asked, eyes shining with hope. The question froze them both. Alessia's heart thundered as she met Dante's equally stunned gaze. Before either could formulate a response, Mrs. Bertelli appeared to shepherd Sophia to breakfast. Over the next few days, Sophia's attachment grew increasingly obvious. Her drawings featured 3 figures now: herself, Dante, and Alessia, usually surrounded by hearts. She began including Alessia in her bedtime prayers, asking God to keep my new family safe. The breaking point came during a particularly bad nightmare. Alessia reached Sophia's room first, gathering the sobbing child into her arms. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here." "Don't leave me, Mommy," Sophia whimpered, still half asleep. Alessia's eyes shot to the doorway where Dante stood, his expression unreadable. The next day, he was distant, present physically but emotionally withdrawn. The easy intimacy of recent days vanished behind his walls. That night, unable to bear the tension, Alessia confronted him in his study. "Talk to me." "I'm afraid." The admission seemed torn from him. "Not of my enemies, not of death." He ran a hand through his hair. "I'm afraid of what happens when you realize this life is too much, when you decide you can't live in my world." "Dante, Sophia adores you. She's starting to heal, to hope for a real family again. If you leave..." He swallowed hard. "It would break her, break us both." Alessia crossed the room slowly, deliberately. For the first time, she initiated their intimacy, pulling him down into a kiss that conveyed everything she couldn't yet say aloud. His response was immediate, desperate, lifting her onto his desk as papers scattered. Their lovemaking was different this time, slower, deeper, heavy with unspoken promises. Each touch was a pledge, each kiss a vow. When she wrapped her legs around him, it was an answer to his fears. As they moved together, she silently promised to stay, to choose this complicated, dangerous, beautiful life they were building. "Mine," he breathed against her skin. "Yours," she answered, making her choice with absolute clarity. Alessia's phone buzzed while she helped Sophia with her morning reading. The unknown number made her pause. "Marco needs you. Coffee bean on Michigan Ave. Come alone, or he dies." Her hands trembled as she deleted the message. 2 weeks had passed since discovering Marco's connections to both the FBI and Donatus. Despite everything, he was still her brother, the one who'd held her through nights in foster homes, who'd promised they'd always protect each other. "Are you okay?" Sophia looked up from her book, dark eyes so much like her father's. "You look scared." "Just tired, sweetheart." Alessia forced a smile, guilt already churning in her stomach. Later, during Dante's weekly territory meeting, she approached Mrs. Bertelli in the kitchen. "I need to pick up supplies for Sophia's birthday surprise. An hour tops." The housekeeper's shrewd eyes studied her. Mr. Ricci doesn't like unscheduled departures. Please, I want to make it special for her. Mrs. Bertelli finally nodded. 1 hour. The coffee shop bustled with afternoon customers. Alessia scanned faces until she spotted Agent Rivera in a corner booth. Her brother was nowhere in sight. Where's Marco? She slid into the seat, hands clenched. Safe. Unlike you if the Donatis find him first. Rivera pushed over surveillance photos. Marco running, Donati soldiers following. He took something valuable from them. Now they want blood. What did he steal? Information. The kind that could get him killed. Rivera's smile didn't reach his eyes. But we can protect him. If you help us. I won't betray Dante. No? Rivera opened a file. Sophia has cousins in California. Or there's always foster care. You remember what that's like, don't you? Strange homes, scared little girls. Bile rose in Alessia's throat. You wouldn't. Once we arrest Dante, she'll need somewhere to go. Unless you help us build a clean case, one that protects his legitimate businesses. Sophia keeps her home, her school, her life. Your choice. The agent slid over photos of Sophia at school, playing in the garden, clutching her father's hand. Each image twisted the knife deeper. What do you want? Wear a wire, record specific conversations about his operations. Simple. And if I refuse? We arrest him tomorrow, in front of Sophia. Rivera shrugged. Imagine her face watching Daddy in handcuffs. Alessia closed her eyes, remembering Sophia's nightmares about losing her father. If I do this, you'll protect them both. Focus on key players' major operations. We'll handle the rest. The drive home felt endless, guilt and fear warring in her chest. She found Dante waiting in the foyer, face thunderous. Where were you? His voice was deadly quiet. I needed air, space to think. About what? He stalked closer. Us, this life. How completely I've fallen for you both. The truth in her words made them burn. It's overwhelming sometimes. His expression softened slightly. You should have told me. I know, I'm sorry. She stepped into his space, needing to touch him, to ground herself in what was real. I won't do it again. His kiss was punishing at first, then gentled into something that made her ache. Don't disappear on me, Tesoro. I can't lose you too. That night, their lovemaking carried an edge of desperation. Dante's hands branded her skin, as if marking his territory. Each kiss felt like absolution she didn't deserve. When he finally drove them both over the edge, Alessia cried out his name like a prayer for forgiveness. She lay awake afterward, watching him sleep. The moonlight softened his features, erasing the hardness his world required. This man who killed without mercy, but braided his daughter's hair with infinite patience. Who commanded an empire, but still checked under Sophia's bed for monsters. Morning came too quickly. Alessia met Rivera in a department store bathroom, her stomach churning as he fitted the sophisticated wire. Test it, he ordered. 1, 2, 3, she whispered, hating how her voice shook. Perfect. He handed her a burner phone. We need conversations about territory disputes, money laundering, specific hits. Nothing about legitimate business. And Marco? Safe until you deliver. Rivera's smile was cold. Remember, their future depends on you. Alessia stared at her reflection after he left. The wire was invisible under her clothes, but she felt its weight like chains. In 12 hours, she'd gone from family to traitor, from protector to threat. I'm doing this for Sophia, she whispered to her reflection. To keep her safe, to keep her family together. But the words rang hollow in the fluorescent lights. She straightened her shoulders, fighting nausea. One way or another, this would end. She just prayed they could forgive her when it did. Returning to the mansion, she found Sophia waiting with a drawing, 3 figures holding hands under a bright sun. Look, Alessia, it's our family. Alessia hugged the little girl tightly, breathing in her sweet shampoo scent. Everything she was about to risk, every betrayal she was about to commit, it was all for this child's happiness. At least that's what she desperately needed to believe. Alessia's hands trembled as she arranged Sophia's plate, hyper-aware of the wire pressing against her ribs. The dining room's warmth felt stifling, each breath a struggle against mounting guilt. And then Emily brought her new puppy for show and tell. Sophia bounced in her seat, dark curls swaying. Can we get a puppy, Daddy? Dante's lips curved into that rare smile, reserved only for his daughter. We'll discuss it this weekend, Principessa. His gaze shifted to Alessia, softening in a way that made her stomach clench. She focused on her untouched pasta, the silverware clinking too loudly against fine china. "Alessia, you're not eating," Sophia observed with a child's directness. "Are you sick?" "Just tired, sweetheart." The lie tasted bitter. After dinner came Sophia's bedtime routine, stories, prayers, and multiple hugs that felt like daggers to Alessia's conscience. When the little girl finally drifted off, Dante's hand settled on the small of Alessia's back, guiding her toward his office. "Join me for wine." His voice held warmth she didn't deserve. "I need to make some calls later, but we have time." The office's rich leather and mahogany usually felt comforting. Tonight it suffocated her. Dante poured 2 glasses of red wine, the liquid dark as blood in crystal stems. Antonio confirmed the situation in the West Side territory. He settled beside her on the leather sofa. "The Donatis are pushing boundaries they shouldn't." The wire felt like it was burning through her skin. Bile rose in her throat. "I need to use the bathroom." She practically fled. Barely making it before retching, cool water on her face didn't help. The bathroom door opened, and Dante's reflection appeared behind her in the mirror. His arm slipped around her waist, concern evident in his expression, until his hand froze over the slight bulge beneath her blouse. The change was instant. His face transformed to marble as he slowly turned her around, fingers finding the wire with surgical precision. He removed it without a word, studying the device with arctic calm before crushing it under his Italian leather shoe. "Dante!" Her voice cracked. He gripped her arm, not painfully, but with implacable force, steering her back to his office. The lock engaged with a decisive click. "Don't move!" His voice could have frozen hell. She sank into a chair, listening to his rapid-fire calls in Italian. The mansion hummed with sudden activity, security mobilizing, voices urgent in the halls. A child's cry pierced the tension. "I want Alessia!" Sophia's footsteps approached, followed by Mrs. Bertelli's attempts to soothe her. "Where is she? Why can't I see her?" Sophia's voice rose with panic. "Is she leaving like Mommy?" The sobs tore through Alessia's heart. She pressed her hands against the door, forehead resting on cool wood. "Please," she whispered when Dante returned. "Let me comfort her." His jaw clenched as he studied her, then nodded to the guard. 2 minutes, watched. Sophia flew into her arms, tears soaking Alessia's shoulder. "Don't go, please don't go." "Shh, sweetheart." Alessia stroked the dark curls, so like her father's. "Everything will be okay, I promise." "You promised to help me make cookies tomorrow," Sophia hiccuped. "You can't leave before cookies." Dante watched them, something complicated shifting behind his eyes. When Mrs. Bertelli led Sophia away with promises of hot chocolate, the little girl's grip on Alessia's hand lingered until the last possible moment. Silence descended like a blade. "Did you do this to protect your brother, or to destroy me?" Dante's voice was terrifyingly quiet. Alessia's tears finally spilled. "They threatened to arrest you in front of Sophia. Said she'd end up in foster care like I did." The words tumbled out. "Marco's in protective custody. The Donatis are hunting him. Rivera said if I wore the wire, they'd build a clean case, one that would protect your legitimate businesses, let Sophia keep her home and school." "So you chose to betray my trust to save us?" His laugh held no humor. "How magnificently ironic. I thought I could control what information they got. Keep you both safe." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I couldn't bear the thought of Sophia losing everything." The door burst, open before Dante could respond. Antonio rushed in, tablet in hand, face grim. "Boss, the intercepts came through. Marco Romano has been working with the Donatis for months. He orchestrated the whole thing, getting his sister to witness the hit, knowing you'd protect her. They're planning to use the FBI investigation as cover for a territory grab." Alessia's world tilted sideways. "No, he wouldn't." The transcripts are clear. Antonio's voice held unexpected gentleness. "Your brother set you up as a pawn from the beginning. The gambling debts, the threats, all of it was orchestrated to get you close to Dante." The room spun as everything she thought she knew crumbled. Her brother's desperate calls for help over the years, the double shifts she'd worked to pay his debts, the fear she'd lived with, thinking she was protecting him. All lies. She looked at Dante, expecting to see satisfaction at her devastation. Instead, his expression held that same grave intensity from the night she'd been stabbed protecting Sophia. "Your brother played us both," he said quietly. "The question is, what are we going to do about it?" Dawn painted Chicago's skyline in shades of blood and gold. Inside Dante's fortified mansion, Alessia stared at the surveillance photos spread across his desk, each one a knife to her heart. Marco, smiling and relaxed, meeting with Donati soldiers. Marco, shaking hands with the men she'd seen execute the federal agent. Marco, watching her apartment building, timing her routes home from work. The agent's murder wasn't random. Antonio's voice was unusually gentle as he played an audio recording. Your brother suggested the location knowing your schedule. Alessia's hands trembled as she heard Marco's familiar voice. She always takes that shortcut when she works doubles. Trust me, she'll be there. Why? The word scraped her raw throat. I worked myself to exhaustion paying his debts. There were no real debts. Dante's cold fury filled the room. Every loan shark was Donati connected. Every crisis that made you take extra shifts was orchestrated to maintain your predictable schedule. Armed guards patrolled outside the windows. The mansion hummed with tension as Dante's security teams prepared for the expected Donati retaliation. Alessia struggled to reconcile this calculated betrayal with memories of Marco holding her through childhood nightmares, teaching her to ride a bike, working 3 jobs to keep them together after their parents died. Sudden shouts erupted from the perimeter. Security feeds showed FBI vehicles breaching the outer gates, agents swarming with warrants raised. Right on schedule, Antonio muttered, monitoring multiple screens. The Donatis must have promised them something big. A chill ran down Alessia's spine. Sophia! She raced upstairs, taking the steps 2 at a time. The little girl's bedroom was empty, pink sheets still warm. Alessia's heart pounded as she ran to the secret room Dante had shown, her for emergencies, hidden behind a false panel in his study. Sophia? Her fingers found the concealed latch. Sweetheart, are you hiding? The small space held only Sophia's stuffed bunny, its fuzzy ears damp with tears. Beside it lay a playing card, the King of Hearts, edges worn from years of handling. Numbers were scrawled across the face in familiar handwriting. Her hands shook as she dialed. 1 ring, 2. Hello, sister. Marco's voice was exactly as she remembered, warm and teasing, as if he hadn't just destroyed her world. Where is she? Alessia fought to keep her voice steady. Safe, for now. Background noise suggested he was driving. Tell Dante I'll call back in an hour with terms. He surrenders control of the Southside operations, signs over the shipping contracts, and little Sophia gets to come home. She's 7 years old, Marco, an innocent child. No one in Dante Ricci's world is innocent. Steel entered his tone. You taught me that family protects family. Remember? This is me protecting you from becoming another crime lord's collateral damage. By traumatizing a little girl who just lost her mother? By removing you from a dangerous situation before you get killed. The Donatis are taking over, with or without Dante's cooperation. I'm making sure you survive it. Heavy footsteps approached. I have to go. 1 hour, Marco said. And Alessia, I really did miss you. The line went dead as Dante burst in, his face a mask of barely contained violence. Where is my daughter? Marco has her. Alessia's voice cracked. He's calling back in an hour with demands. The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Dante's men unconsciously stepped back from the killing rage in his eyes. His hand shot out, fingers wrapping around Alessia's throat. Not squeezing, but a clear threat. If I find out you helped him, I would never hurt Sophia. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You know that. Let me help get her back. Marco still trusts me. He won't expect me to betray him. Like you betrayed me with the wire? His grip tightened fractionally. I was trying to protect Sophia from losing her father. Everything I did was to keep her from ending up in the system like we did. Alessia met his gaze steadily. Kill me if you want, but let me help save her first. Long seconds passed. Finally, his hand dropped. Antonio, clear the room! When they were alone, Dante's composure cracked. Fear and fury warred in his expression as he paced like a caged predator. If anything happens to her, it won't. Alessia approached slowly, as if gentling a wounded animal. Marco thinks he's protecting me. He'll want to meet somewhere I'm familiar with, somewhere he knows the layout. Let me be the one to go in. Absolutely not. He'll be expecting your men. But me, his protective big sister? She pressed her advantage. He won't search me for a wire or a tracker, won't expect me to be armed. Dante studied her face. If this is another betrayal, I choose Sophia. Her voice broke. I choose you. The brother I loved died the moment he involved an innocent child. His hand cupped her cheek. thumb brushing away tears. For a moment, tenderness warred with rage in his expression. Then his walls slammed back into place. "We have 50 minutes to plan." He stepped back. "All business. If you betray me again, even for your brother, I will make you watch as I tear his empire down brick by brick. Then I will show you exactly why Chicago's most dangerous families fear my name." Alessia squared her shoulders. "Then let's make sure it doesn't come to that. Tell me what you need me to do." The abandoned factory loomed against the midnight sky, its broken windows reflecting moonlight like shattered mirrors. Alessia checked the small handgun Dante had given her for the third time, its weight unfamiliar and heavy against her ribs. "Remember," Dante's voice was low and controlled as his men took their positions. "Get Sophia to safety. Nothing else matters." Alessia nodded, her throat tight. She stood alone between two worlds, the brother who'd raised her and the man who'd captured her heart. The sound of approaching vehicles broke the silence. Marco stepped from a black SUV, Sophia's small hand clutched in his. The sight of her brother's familiar smile, the same one that had comforted her after nightmares as a child, made Alessia's chest ache. "Careful, sweetheart." Marco guided Sophia around a patch of broken concrete. Even now, he played the protective big brother perfectly. "I want my daddy," Sophia whimpered, her princess pajamas dirty and tear-stained. "Soon, Piccola," Alessia called softly. Sophia's head snapped up, relief flooding her features. Marco's smile widened. "See, I told you Alessia would come." He looked at his sister with genuine warmth. "I've missed you, Les. Everything I've done, working with the Donatis, setting up the witness situation, it was all to protect you." "Protect me?" The gun felt heavier against her side. "Dante Ricci is a killer. You think he wouldn't eliminate both of us once we outlived our usefulness?" Marco's voice held the same passionate conviction she remembered from childhood debates. "The Donatis offered us a real future, safety, legitimacy." "Where is Don Donati?" Alessia asked, noting movement in the factory's shadows. "Here to ensure an orderly transition," Marco gestured toward the darkness. "Once Dante signs over his territory and shipping routes, we all walk away." Bold promises from a gambling addict who betrayed his own sister. Dante's voice cut through the night as he emerged, apparently alone. His expression was carved from stone as he approached, hands raised slightly. "Daddy!" Sophia tried to run forward, but Marco held her back. "Business before reunions." Marco's grip tightened on Sophia's shoulder. "Sign the papers and she goes free." Figures materialized from the shadows. Donati soldiers with weapons trained on Dante. Marco's facade cracked, revealing something ugly beneath the brotherly concern. "Though, honestly," he pulled out a gun. "The Don never planned to honor that deal. You're too dangerous to leave alive, Ricci. But your organization, running through Sophia as a puppet heir, that has potential." "No!" Sophia twisted free, bolting toward her father. Time slowed as Marco swung his weapon toward the running child. Alessia's body moved on pure instinct, the concealed gun sliding into her hand. The shot echoed through the factory as her brother stumbled back, clutching his shoulder. "Now!" Dante's roar unleashed chaos. His hidden men emerged, engaging the Donati forces in a brutal firefight. Alessia grabbed Sophia, shielding her behind a concrete pillar as bullets flew. Through the muzzle flashes, she glimpsed Dante moving with lethal grace, personally confronting the Donati patriarch. The gunfire seemed to last forever, and no time at all. When silence finally fell, Dante stood among fallen bodies, his suit spattered with blood, but his expression coldly triumphant. Marco lay groaning, clutching his wounded shoulder, staring at Alessia with naked betrayal. "Your own brother," he spat. "You chose them over your own blood." Alessia lifted her chin. "No, I chose the family that chose me." Sophia trembled against her side, face buried in her hip. Dante's expression softened fractionally as he approached them, checking his daughter for injuries before pulling them both close. "Take him alive," he ordered his men, who moved to secure Marco. "His fate can wait." Alessia stroked Sophia's hair, murmuring soothing words in Italian, as she had so many nights after nightmares. But this time, the nightmare had been real. They'd nearly lost everything to betrayal and ambition. "I want to go home," Sophia whispered, clinging to both of them. Dante's arm tightened around Alessia's waist as he led them toward the waiting car, leaving his men to clean up the aftermath. The adrenaline began to fade, leaving Alessia shaking as the full weight of what she'd done, shooting her own brother, settled over her. "You protected our daughter," Dante murmured, his voice rough with emotion. "You chose us." "Our daughter." The words wrapped around Alessia's heart, steadying her. She had chosen irrevocably and without regret. The family forged in danger and sealed with love meant more than the bonds of blood that had proven so fragile. Marco's betrayed expression haunted her as they drove away from the factory. But Sophia's warm weight against her side and Dante's hand clasped in hers anchored her to the truth. Some choices, once made, defined everything that came after. She had made hers. The mansion felt different in the aftermath. Victory had a price, measured in Sophia's nightmares and silent tears. For 3 days, they moved through familiar routines with mechanical precision. Breakfast, school, homework, bedtime stories, speaking only of practical matters while deeper wounds festered. Beneath, Alessia watched Sophia pick at her dinner, dark circles under the child's eyes matching her father's. Dante's empire might be stronger than ever, his enemies eliminated or scattered, but here in the private sphere of family, they were all walking wounded. The FBI investigation has been officially closed, Dante announced that evening, his first mention of the outside world in days. Their unauthorized operation with Marco destroyed their case. Alessia nodded, focusing on helping Sophia with her math homework. The girl hadn't wanted to be more than arm's length from either of them since that night. They'd converted the family room into a makeshift classroom, preserving some normalcy while accommodating her need for constant contact. "I don't want to go to school tomorrow," Sophia whispered, curling closer to Alessia on the couch. "You're safe, Piccola," Dante assured her, his mask slipping to reveal raw concern. "No one will ever hurt you again." "Promise you won't leave?" Sophia's fingers clutched Alessia's sleeve. "Either of you?" The question hung heavy between the adults, weighted with unspoken complications. Alessia smoothed Sophia's hair, buying time to steady her voice. "Try to rest, sweetheart. We're right here." It took 3 stories, and both of them lying beside her before Sophia finally drifted off. For the first time in days, her sleep seemed peaceful, unburdened by terror. Dante touched Alessia's arm as they left Sophia's room. "My study. We need to talk." The familiar space felt charged with tension as she followed him inside. Dante poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed her one, then leaned against his desk, studying her with unreadable eyes. "Was any of it real?" he asked finally. "Or was I just convenient protection until something better came along?" "That's not fair." Alessia's hands trembled around the glass. "You know it wasn't that simple." "Enlighten me then." His voice carried dangerous undertones. "Explain how you could share my bed, care for my daughter, make me trust you, all while wearing a wire." "I was terrified," the words burst out. "The FBI threatened to arrest you in front of Sophia, send her into the system I barely survived. Marco was in danger, or so I thought. I felt trapped between impossible choices." "You could have told me." "Could I?" She set down the untouched whiskey. "The man who executes rivals without hesitation, who had my brother's gambling debts investigated before I even moved in. I didn't know then what I know now." "And what's that?" "That the monster who kills to protect his interests and the father who braids his daughter's hair are the same person. That you can order deaths 1 hour and tenderly comfort Sophia's nightmares the next. That love and violence aren't mutually exclusive in your world." She stepped closer, refusing to back down. "I've seen all of you, Dante, the cruel and the kind. I chose to stay, despite knowing exactly what you're capable of." Something shifted in his expression. He set aside his own glass and crossed the space between them with predatory grace. "You chose us over blood," he said softly. "Shot your own brother to protect Sophia." "He stopped being my brother the moment he pointed a gun at her." Alessia's voice cracked. "Family isn't just blood. It's choice, trust, love." "Love?" His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek. "Is that what this is?" "You know it is." She leaned into his touch. "I fought it, tried to keep emotional distance. But watching you with Sophia, seeing the man behind the mask, I fell in love with all of you, the protector and the predator." Dante's control finally shattered. He pulled her roughly against him, his kiss desperate and consuming. When they broke apart, his walls had crumbled completely. "Losing you would destroy me," he confessed against her lips. "You and Sophia, you're everything. The only ones who've ever seen all of me and chosen to stay." "Then let me stay." She wound her arms around his neck. "No more tests, no more doubts. Trust me to love both sides of you." "You're mine," he growled possessively. "Both of you. To protect, to love, forever." There's no walking away from that. His mouth claimed hers again as he lifted her onto his desk, paper scattering unheeded. Their coupling was raw and honest, no more secrets or hesitation between them. His touch alternated between demanding and tender, marking her as his, while worshipping every inch of skin he revealed. Alessia surrendered completely to him, accepting both his darkness and his light. Each kiss was a promise, each caress an absolution for past betrayals. In the pre-dawn hours, they made love with newfound truth between them, no longer captor and captive, protector and protected, but equals joined by choice and love. Mine, Dante breathed against her throat as pleasure overwhelmed them both. Say it! Yours, she gasped. Always yours. The first rays of sunrise found them still tangled together, neither willing to break the spell of honesty between them. Sophia would wake soon, seeking reassurance of their presence. But for now, they had this moment of perfect understanding. Monster and man, betrayal and loyalty, danger and desire, all reconciled in the truth of their connection. Sunlight streamed through the windows as Alessia signed the final guardianship papers. The lawyer gathered the documents while Dante's hand rested on her lower back. Congratulations, Mrs. Ricci. You're officially Sophia's legal guardian. The word settled over her like a warm blanket. After months of legal maneuvering, she was officially Sophia's mother. Thank you, Dante dismissed the lawyer before pulling Alessia into his arms. Happy? More than I thought possible. She traced the silver at his temples. Though I think you could have shown Marco more mercy than exile. He lives in a villa in Tuscany, Dante said, hardening. That was mercy. For you, not him. Alessia nodded. Her brother's betrayal still ached, but the pain had dulled. The FBI closed their investigation this morning, Dante said. The evidence of corruption was compelling. Compelling enough to redirect their attention to the remaining Donati associates. Let's say their priorities have shifted. The hospital board approved the children's wing funding. Legitimate enterprise suits us. Us. She smiled against his lips. You're part of this family's future. The nursing scholarships, the shelters, your ideas, Kara. Someone has to balance your more aggressive business instincts. You balance all of me, the monster and the man. Mrs. Bertelli interrupted them. Sophia's ballet recital starts in an hour. She's asking for help with her hair. Alessia found Sophia in her room, wearing her pink tutu, surrounded by hair accessories. Mommy, can you do the special twist braid? Of course, sweetheart. These quiet moments amazed her. How naturally they'd become a family. Is Daddy coming? Sophia asked. Try keeping him away. The theater buzzed with excitement. Dante's security team blended seamlessly with the crowd. Alessia smoothed Sophia's costume backstage. You'll be wonderful. We'll be right in front. Promise? Sophia clutched her sleeve. Promise. She found Dante with pink roses in his lap. He immediately took her hand. She nervous, Katir Zharu? He asked. A little, but excited. Remember to smile. Your proud papa face sometimes looks like you're planning a hit. He chuckled. Only planning how to spoil her. She mentioned wanting a pony. We live in Chicago. I bought land in Lake Forest, perfect for stables. The lights dimmed. Sophia's class performed first, but Alessia watched only their daughter. Dante's hand tightened on hers. He was transfixed, all traces of the feared crime boss gone. After, Sophia ran straight into Dante's arms, babbling about dancing. You are perfect, Principessa, he assured her, then turned to Alessia. This is what redemption looks like. Alessia's heart swelled. She rose to kiss him, Sophia giggling between them. This is family, she whispered. Sophia squirmed until they included her in the embrace. This was their truth, beauty and danger intertwined. A family forged in fire, strengthened by choice. Gelato time, Sophia declared. As the Principessa commands, Dante agreed. Alessia tucked herself against his side. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight was for celebrating their daughter, their love, their choice. To build something beautiful from darkness. This was their happily ever after. Not perfect, but fiercely, completely theirs.